Good morning to everyone that has joined us this morning. Thanks for being here. We appreciate your continued patience with the virtual meetings. So I'll have some news about how we're going to be moving forward starting in July. Today we're going to be hearing from the Ohio EPA, sorry. It's their Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance, and Jeremy and Tom are going to share with us lots of useful information I'm sure you guys will find helpful to have. And then, of course, we'll have updates from BWC with our ever famous Dean Bidlack. So that is the good news. We only have one more virtual meeting until we meet back in person. If you want to use the chat feature to network and ask any questions as we go along, I will try and keep an eye on that. And of course, we're recording this. So for those of you that have attended before, you know you'll be getting a newsletter that has the recording, the slides, and any other pertinent information that I'm sharing today. In line with that, also, we're starting our programming and getting safety topics in that are relevant to our Safety Council members. So we will be doing we do a survey every year, and we're going to be sending that out, and really encourage you to share if you have topics that you would like to hear about or be trained upon, to share those with us, because we want this to be your Safety Council and be bringing you the things that are helpful. I want to mention all of our steering committee members. You'll see them all listed here. I won't read through them, but these are the people that help us plan how everything's going to roll out, different topics. They connect us with speakers, all that good stuff. So let's get started on the fiscal year 23 program year, where the differences are going to be. What's changing? So obviously I've mentioned we're going back to in-person meetings. Yay, everybody clap. It'll still be a minimum of 10 required attendances at the meetings. We'll have 12 meetings, and so you just need to attend 10 of those. They're also going to be counting virtual broadcasts of, oh, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm talking about. We are allowed to broadcast our meetings also. However, that does not yield us any attendance credit. So there will be no more semi-annual reports. So I'm pretty sure I can hear some excitedness over the lines. And along with that, because it was what fed our annual recognition certificates and usually our awards banquet, that process will be gone entirely. We do plan, I hope, to try and put something together to recognize people for going above and beyond. We just have to figure out what that will be, what it'll look like. Our BWC staff is back to full participation, so they can come out and do your consultations and whatever we need. That's all. Sorry, I feel like I missed the slide. This is a lot of information on here. Mostly I put this so that you can look at it later. But everybody will now be getting a 2% rebate on your workers' comp premiums. If you remember before, it was a 2%, 4%, depending on what group you were in. So they've eliminated that. There are possibilities to earn external training credits. And I'm just going to keep this at a high level so you can read over all of this at a later time, just to try and touch on this stuff. Most of this stuff is the same for, let's see, basically one person can't attend a meeting for more than one BWC policy number. So that's the same as it's always been. Oh, here's what I thought I had. Rebate program resumes. You just have to be enrolled in Safety Council by July 31st of this year and attend 10 meetings. There is no more CEO requirement. And again, everybody's going to be doing the 2% if you're eligible. which basically means if you paid your premiums and some other stuff, and you're a member of Safety Council. On this note about being enrolled in Safety Council, mostly because we haven't been together for so long, and I'm for sure that we've lost some people, either to job elimination or they've been rolled into somebody else's job, various different things. But I've tasked with, very shortly you'll be hearing from me about confirming that you want to remain a member of West Central Ohio Safety Council. And so I just want to let you know, heads up, that I will be trying to confirm everybody's desire to go forward. So this talks more about the external training credit. Of course, BWC in-person courses will count. And then just basically like we did before, we just have to have documentation, and it needs to be submitted to me, and then I turn it in to BWC. Safety training at your own workplace does not count as an external training. And the virtual and online training also does not qualify, except for if it's the BWC virtual training classes. June 14th is our last virtual meeting. We'll be talking about heat stress with SafeX. So last virtual meeting, so excited. You guys know what the process is now. I've been registering everybody from my end. So I'll do that again for next month. So new, starting, some people, if you've only attended virtually, this will all be new to you. But basically, everybody will get an email that's on the Safety Council membership list, and they'll get the invites for the meetings 2 to 3 weeks before the meetings, and then reminders also leading up to. It is going to be online through our database that we have here at the chamber. So if you don't have a login, we'll need to get you one. So you just need to let me know. It's just a quick email. You can also register other people. So if you're logged in to register yourself, you can add other folks from your facility to that. Again, now this isn't virtual, so we have to have a head count for breakfast. So I'm trying to push that everybody pre-register. We can always accommodate some walk-ins, but I'd rather you didn't make it a habit. And then just like normal, you'll be receiving a newsletter within a few days following each month's meeting with all that information. The attendance incentive. So you could win $100 today for being here. So congratulations ahead of time if that's you. We will be doing the grand prize drawing. Actually, we won't be drawing in June. We'll be drawing that in July. Well, we have to figure that out yet. I'm sorry. I might be announcing who the winner is in June, but we plan on distributing it at the in-person meeting so everybody can see the bid. And of course, people are notified afterwards. And now, without further ado, I'd like to ask Dean to step up and give you his update.
Good morning, everyone. Deb's doing a good job relaying information from the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. So she sends out a monthly update, has a listing of the safety talks, webinars, and virtual training. So it saves me having to go through all those during this meeting. However, there are a couple new safety talks that are available on vibrating tools and preventing overexertions in the workplace. So those are available to you at your leisure. You can use those, and what's nice, you can pick the time if you want to do it at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock at night, you can still do it. We have expanded our school safety and security grant. That grant is up to $15,000, and it can be used for HVAC inspection, maintenance, and secondary devices to help control those airborne contaminants. So wanted to keep aware of that. OSHA is working on the heat stress. So since I watched the weather today and found out we're going to be at 84 degrees every day this week, it's a good time to look into our heat illness at work. So OSHA, after only 52 years, has decided to look into the heat stress factors that we have in our workplaces, not only from the sun and working outdoors and construction, but also indoors. Some of you know that I used to work in a forging hammer, and that defines hot work. Okay. The Bureau of Workers' Compensation has found this to be a good time to make some changes in how we deliver services. So our restrictions are mostly off. We are not restricted how many days we can go in the field now. We are targeting the high rate multipliers, the high severity companies, and the high EM companies. So to do that, we are not going to be repeating any services that we've done in the last 3 years for you. So we want to get to those high rated companies, and those are the ones that are driving the rates for all the manual numbers. And what we're hoping to do is by affecting those people, we can affect the whole manual for everyone and lower the cost that way. So that's what we're going to be targeting in the near future. This summer promises to be eventful. Joe, one of my colleagues, is retiring on May 27th. So congratulations to Joe Phillips on his retirement. Congratulations to Doug and I. We get to share his area. So we're not going to replace Joe at this point in time. So I will also be covering Mercer County again, Auglaize, most of Allen, including Spencerville, Harrod, and Lafayette. Doug's going to be picking up Hardin County, Delphus, Cairo, Elida, Gomer, Beaver Dam, Bluffton, and parts north. So we are going to be covering the southern part of the Toledo office. So if you have any questions, any concerns, can't get a hold of somebody, get a hold of me, get a hold of Doug, and we will get you to the right person. And we will make that happen as quickly as possible. And knowing that we are out in the field, so we can't be sitting on our phones now to answer phone calls within 3 minutes, but we will get back to you as soon as we can, usually within 1 business day. So thank you for your time and efforts, and I look forward to our next adventure, folks. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. I didn't know that Joe was retiring, so I'll have to reach out to him. Wish him he's been with the Bureau a long time. All right, and this one's just completely out of place because, you know, March 2023, who's thinking about then? But Safety Congress is March 9th and 10th next year. All right, and without further ado, I would like to, you guys can help me welcome Jeremy Scholes and Tom Psychody, I screwed it up, Psychody. And they're going to be talking about avoiding Ohio EPA violations and how they can help you and helping you know what the requirements are. So let me, you should be able to share on your end.
All right, Deb, thank you. Yep, I'm going to get this going here. All right, so thanks, Deb. Thanks, everyone, for the West Central Ohio Safety Council for having Tom and I here today. I'm going to do a quick little introduction of myself so you can get a better feel of who I am, and then Tom will also give an introduction of him. But while I am actually doing that, little opportunity for participation from the crowd. I'm curious to know who is on with us, meaning what your role is. If you're able to chat in, I would love that, just to kind of give me a quick understanding of, you know, if you're just HR, just hit HR. If you're EHNS, hit that. If you're all of the above, safety, whatever, just if you could chat that in, that would be great. And then I'll kind of go through that here in a moment. So I'm Jeremy, and I've been with the Ohio EPA for a little over 16 years now. I am actually literally housed. My home is in Allen County. So I am kind of down and around the area that most of you guys are. I live in Bluffton. So you guys are kind of more my people, if you will. I actually started my career out working for Medicote there in Lima, worked there for 6 years. It's now PPG, I believe. Spent 6 years doing compliance assistance with them, and then got the opportunity to join Ohio EPA and have been here, like I said, 16 years. I've done a few things within the agency. I've worked with our solid waste program. Then I had a small stint in our air pollution control program. And then lastly, 6 years ago, made the change over to Ocap, which is the acronym for the Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. And so that's where I have been and have been enjoying this program. And part of my presentation a little bit this morning is just kind of educating you guys a little bit on who we are, what we can provide for you. So I'm going to turn this over real quick so Tom can give his introduction, tell you all about him, and I'm going to check the chats real quick just to see who's with us today. So Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, my name is Tom Psychotti. I'm with the Ohio EPA's Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention as well. A little bit about me. I'm originally from the Cleveland area, came out to Northwest Ohio seemingly a lifetime ago for school, ended up in the automotive industry here in Northwest Ohio, and then eventually got my way into the EPA with as Jeremy said, similar to him. I think I started about 6 months after he did, and I started in the Division of Air Pollution Control, where Jeremy started with our solid waste program, and I was an inspector for about 12 years. Yeah, I guess 12 years, a little over 12 years with the Division of Air Pollution Control primarily, and did a lot of facility inspections and also oversaw the open burning program for Northwest Ohio. And then about 3 years ago, switched over to what Jeremy and I do now. And he will kind of run through that. And then I will come back and talk to you a little bit more about the dry stuff, the regulations, but we'll get through it.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. I am actually going to stop sharing the video just in case there's any glitches. We don't have any problems with that, but I did want to give you the opportunity to, again, kind of connect my face with the voice, if you will, connect the face and voice with my name. So, you know, if you ever see me out and about, or if you ever called Tom or I, you know, for some compliance assistance, you will have already, you know, seen us at least one point in time, and we won't be strangers to you. All right. Anytime you guys do have questions, feel free to chat them in. Doesn't mean I'll necessarily see them right away. There'll be an opportunity, if time permits, to ask some questions at the end if you guys want to talk. But again, we will give you our contact information so you can get a hold of us at any time. All right. So, and I already talked about this a little bit. Just going to give you a quick background of what our program is all about, you know, who we are, what we do, and how we can help you. So our division, okay, so our division is the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance, DEFA for short. And within that division, we are broken up into two different offices. We have the Office of Financial Assistance, and then we have the Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention, commonly referred to as Ocap. And then even more commonly, we kind of just shorten it and say Compliance Assistance. Kind of the vision of our program and what we're all about is we want to be a one-stop shop for small businesses when it comes to environmental compliance assistance. We provide that you know, assistance where, you know, we're helping with permits, we're helping with understanding regulations, all that type of thing. And then we also provide funding assistance within our division. You know, we provide some grants. There's some grant money available, you know, similar to like the BWC has some grants available on the safety side. We have some on the environmental side. We also provide loans, low interest loans, and sometimes principal forgiveness loans, depending on the need of the entity, you know, seeking out that money. So the Office of Financial Assistance, that, again, Tom and I don't work for this part of our division, but we do at least want to spread the word out that this is out there. Like I already mentioned, you know, there are loans available, low interest loans. These primarily are going to be for your utilities. These are going to be for your drinking water plants and your wastewater treatment plants. So as, you know, things deteriorate, these wastewater treatment plants or drinking water facilities get old, you have to start replacing things, fix things. Our program can provide funding to help pay for those improvements. We also have within this office money available for restoring wetlands and waterways. That is also kind of a neat thing where we try to work with local groups, local utilities to try to fix some of these more natural conveyances. Then we also provide some more money for home septic systems. So your citizens that maybe have a failing home septic system, if they qualify, and again, that's based upon need, they can get money from our program. Now, the one catch for that is we don't typically provide the money directly to the homeowner. So a homeowner can't just say, hey, Ohio EPA, we need some money for the septic system replacement. They actually have to work with their local health department. And the local health department then will put in for the funding each year. And then we would provide the health department the money. And then they in turn would then give it out to the homeowner for replacing those septic systems. Same thing for schools with the lead testing, replacing faucets and so forth that have the lead in it. And then lastly, a piece I want to talk about real quickly from this office is we have a compliance assistance unit that works with the local wastewater treatment plants, whether it's the big municipality wastewater treatment plant, or whether it's actually a small individual, what's often referred to as a little package plant for like a mobile home park, a campground, those types of wastewater treatment units. We have folks that actually will go out and help troubleshoot and give recommendations and help, get those treatment plants back into compliance or working correctly. Or just, generally educating, new operators that maybe just aren't comfortable with running these systems. And specifically in Northwest District Office, Andy Gall is the gentleman's name, and you can see there's his phone number for anyone that maybe has interest in reaching out to this group. So anybody on the line that possibly is working with a municipality, you could reach out to this gentleman. So transitioning a little bit to Tom and I's specific group. And I want to pause here real quick because I did have an opportunity to kind of go through your responses, and I appreciate you guys chatting in those responses. And to no surprise, a majority of you are safety reps, and then also a lot of you are human resources. So a lot of times when Tom and I give these presentations, those are the folks that are in this meeting. And then we did have a couple of the EHS folks, and it looks like, again, we had the all of the above as well. And, often, small companies, small businesses, one person kind of gets to wear all the hats. Sometimes that's the HR person that gets to wear all the hats, or sometimes it's just a safety person that's also, hey, throwing the environmental. So again, I'm glad to kind of, have a better understanding of who's on this call, because I think when we are done with this presentation, this information is going to be helpful no matter if you are the HR person or you're the safety person or the environmental person. This information can be helpful because again, even if it's not your responsibility, you can pass this information on to the person in your plant that, this would pertain to, because ultimately Tom and I want to be able to provide our assistance to the best that we can for these small businesses to try to keep them, in compliance or stay out of trouble. So back to what we do. Again, I've said it a number of times already, environmental assistance, right? We're not BWC, we're not OSHA, we're not the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. We are the Ohio EPA, so we are dealing with everything dealing with the environment. Our program is free. There's no cost to us. We're not like a private consultant where we're going to send you a bill. You're never going to get any kind of bill sent to you where you have to pay us for anything. And the other cool thing about our program is we are a confidential program. And a lot of times when we are giving these presentations or just first interacting with companies, we really have to work hard to convince the people that we are confidential, that we are free, that we're not, the big bad government. But that honestly, we can say that we are from the government and we are here to help. And part of our program is, again, we're confidential. We are not going to talk to the inspectors and tell them, hey, we were out at so-and-so's business. We saw this. You may want to go out and visit them. That's not what we do. We keep everything in-house unless the entity says it's okay for us to talk to the inspector, then we will. But again, we have to get that permission from you. Otherwise, anything that we talk about stays between us. We're not subject to the public records request, the Sunshine Law, like the rest of the agency is. So people can't, put a request in to get all the files and emails about your company from us, anything that we've generated. So that's important to keep in mind. Again, confidential and free. We come out to facilities, so it's not just, sitting behind a computer, talking on a phone. We come out, we walk around, put boots on the ground, see what's going on at your facility. And that helps us understand exactly what it is that you're looking for help on. So again, we can schedule a meeting to come out. Some of the more specific things we do, complete and submit applications for permits. We are a government entity. There's all kinds of permits that are needed to do certain things. And some of those permits can be confusing, can be long, can be daunting. A lot of them are done electronically now. So now there's another level of just kind of that uncertainty on how to fill stuff out, how to submit that to the agency. We can help, fill that stuff out. Now, we ultimately won't be the ones submitting it. We don't hit the submit button or mail it in for you, but we can sit down side by side and tell you what to fill in. Often we will actually just fill in a lot of it, send it back to you for review, etc. It's whatever the level of assistance you need, we can provide it for you. We help resolve NOVs, notice of violations. So, if an inspector comes out, finds something wrong, sends you a notice of violation, says you need to fix something, you can call us. And again, we can give you that confidential advice on how to fix it and how to get back into compliance. One thing that we don't do is we will not actually write any letter responding back to the violation. Again, we'll give you advice, we'll give you tips, we'll kind of say, hey, maybe you want to mention this, but we are prevented from actually sitting down, typing up a letter on your behalf. We also will try to find alternative materials for you. So again, when we talk compliance assistance in the forms and getting you back into compliance, that's a lot of paperwork stuff, but part of our program is also just to kind of come out and say, hey, for example, if you're using a spray paint, some sort of wet paint in your operation, and you're generating a lot of hazardous waste, or that paint is high in volatiles, we may come out and say, hey, have you looked at a different material to replace that? And if you replace that material, you're going to save money on the back end from the hazardous waste generation, or you're going to save money on the fees that are associated with the emissions from the spraying of the paint. So again, we'll look at giving you suggestions on alternative materials, because sometimes just having another set of eyes is always helpful. So that kind of goes along in line with reducing the waste. Again, we want you to save money on the back end, because the environmental requirements that a lot of you are responsible for doesn't make the company money, right? So you want to try to reduce the amount of money that is spent by reducing the amount of waste. And then we can just act as, if you will, the middleman and help facilitate meetings between the regulatory folks and yourself. A lot of times we'll get calls from a company that just doesn't know who they're supposed to call, doesn't know what they're supposed to do as far as communicating with that inspector, or maybe even just feels like they're kind of hitting a dead end with their communication with that inspector. Well, we can set up meetings, be in the room, listening, to the conversation and helping make sure that both sides understand what it is that the other side is trying to convey. And a lot of times this is very helpful because, again, we all get in our own world. The inspectors will get in their own world. They have their own mindset. The facility has their own, day-to-day activities that they're concerned with. So again, just by being that middleman and helping to facilitate meetings can be pretty valuable. And then we can also help develop record keeping. So if you have requirements in a particular permit that says you have to track, certain things, we can help develop that paperwork. Maybe we already have it developed for another facility and we just provide it for you. Or maybe we just show you that, hey, these forms already exist. Some of the permits, some of the general permits that our agency has, specifically stormwater as an example, already have some of these forms within the permit, and you just need to know where they're at and you just need to know how to use them. But if there are no forms that previously exist, we will help you figure out the best way to develop a form that meets your guys' needs. So again, back to this confidentiality a little bit, we want to hit on this again. Originally, our program was air specific only. We only helped on the air side, and then we actually only had the confidentiality established for air related issues. A number of years ago that changed, and then the confidentiality switched to all programs. Now, with everything, there's always a but, right? There's always these exceptions. We are required to convey information if we observe something that is egregious, clear, and immediate danger to human health and the environment, and or criminal. Okay, so if we are out and we see something just blatantly criminal, then we are required to up-channel that and actually tell the regulatory side. That does not happen very often. It's never happened in my 6 years. Most people aren't doing things criminally. They just don't know what they're supposed to do, right? And they miss a reporting time period, or they just didn't know they were supposed to keep a record of that, or shoot, their permit expired. All those things, none of that's criminal. But again, did want to point this out that there are these few narrow exceptions. So what we cannot do. So we have no regulatory authority. Tom and I, we can't come out and cite violations like the regulators. All we do is provide recommendations. And that's important because, we say, hey, this is what you should do. We recommend you do this. But at the end of the day, if you say thank you, but no thank you, then we move on to the next facility. So again, we're not going to cite you in violation for something that we see. Again, we don't breach that confidentiality, again, except if it's one of those 3 exceptions, or again, we get approval from you to communicate with the inspector. And again, with that, we do communicate a lot with the inspectors because a lot of facilities find it valuable that we do talk with the inspector, because it's easier then to get to, to resolve the problem if we're having that open dialogue. But again, we don't have those conversations until, we are instructed that we can. And again, we don't cite violations. So at this point in time, some of these questions that may be bouncing around in your head, some of the common things that we've been asked is, hey, what happens if you see a compliance issue at a facility? Well, like I already mentioned, we'll make a recommendation, right? We'll tell you that, hey, you may want to do this. You should do this. Here's a rule that says this. We will phrase it in all those particular ways. We're not going to say you need to fix that within 30 days. That's the regulatory side. So again, we're just going to provide you that feedback. Are all Ocap services confidential? Our services are confidential, again, unless we go back to those 3 stipulations that allow us or require us, if you will, to up channel it. However, this is one of those kind of misleading statements from a standpoint that, you know, we're going to dive into this a little bit further, but from the compliance assistance, yes, confidential. But within OCAP, we also have some awards that we hand out. And then when we talk about the grants and the money, the grants and the awards, that technically is not confidential. That's public information. But again, that has nothing to do with us providing that assistance on the environmental side. But there is that little small area where if you're going to apply to get an award, if you're going to apply for grant money, then technically that information is public. Can an inspector use what OCAP finds as a part of an enforcement case? Again, the answer to that is no, because we're confidential. You know, they're not going to come and rummage through, you know, our files, or they're not going to request information on the emails. Again, that's purely our information that we share back and forth with you, the facility, and not the enforcement folks. So let's talk a little bit of some other stuff that we do for entities beyond just straight up helping people with regulations. And here's kind of the 4 areas. We talked about grants a little bit. We'll talk about it a little bit more here in a second. There's workshop potentials. Here's the awards I just kind of talked about, commonly referred to as an E3, E4 award. And then we have this OMM, and we were going to talk about that as well. So let's talk about the workshops, webinars, conferences. These first 2 bullet points kind of go together. We used to do compliance assistance conference, an in-person 2 to 3 day big conference, sometime in the fall, September, October timeframe, down in the central Ohio area. We would line up presenters, speakers to go over all the more common environmental regulations that are out there, common environmental pitfalls that companies deal with. But obviously with the COVID in the last 2 years, we switched over and we have been doing it with a virtual platform. And heads up, these are usually every 2 years. We switch them back and forth with our sustainability conference. So last year was our sustainability conference. This year will be our compliance assistance conference. It'll still be virtual, and it's coming up, and it's going to again be around September, October. The actual dates have not been set yet, but you want to keep your eyes open to that if that's something that interests you, because we provide lots and lots of good information there. So 2 ways to kind of check on that is, you know, frequently go to our website and look for announcements there, or go to our website and we have what's referred to as like a list serve. You can sign up to receive email notifications on items like this. So again, if this is something that interests you, go to our website or reach out to Tom and I, you know, later this summer and say, hey, I remember you saying something about this compliance conference. Do you have any more information on it? We also have been providing a lot of webinars over the last 2 years. We typically do 1 webinar a month, providing, again, detailed information. They're usually 1 hour, just providing providing information on good environmental topics. And then kind of touching base and piggybacking a little bit was mentioned earlier. You know, we participate in the BWC Safety Congress every year as well. There's usually an environmental track that takes place during that conference, so we are involved in that as well. Now we have our grant money that's available. Here's the 4 different categories of the grant money that's available. Typically, we're right around $4 million every year that's available to be given out. We have our community and litter prevention. That's, again, more for your cities, your counties, et cetera, for litter cleanups, those types of projects. We have market development. Those are for more your businesses that are thinking of new ways to recycle material. So if there's a machine, a shredder, something like that, that you need in order to shred up plastic, et cetera, you know, this would be a grant that's available for you. Then we have scrap tires. And again, this is a real niche thing. It's taking scrap tires and figuring out ways to recycle those. And then lastly, this is a little bit newer, is our academic institution grants. So this is for our K through 12 schools and our universities that are, thinking more green and are seeking some help with putting in some recycling bins, putting in, bigger like composting units, items like that. We do give out awards. We call these our Encouraging Environmental Excellence Awards, so E3. This is recognizing facilities, businesses for going above and beyond just their normal, regulatory requirements, meeting their permits, awesome. But if they're going above and beyond that, then we want to try to, give that recognition. And there's more information on our website about this, and Tom and I can always sit down with you and give you some information on this, but we do have some individuals down in Columbus that can help with this. But we did just want to throw this out there, make you aware of there's some awards out there, because, it's pretty cool if you can say, you're the only company in your specific, whatever it is, the service it is that you provide, if you're the only company that has one of these awards, right? That's something that you can tout and really show off. And then the E3C is for our communities. So again, that's more for the public institutions, counties, cities, whatnot. We piece that out to kind of pull it away from the businesses. We also have recently started our Encouraging Environmental Excellence in Education. So obviously we just add another E, so it's E4. And again, this is in our schools. We are trying to promote schools and classrooms and our teachers to incorporate environmental principles, into the actual curriculum. So again, if you're part of a school district or you have a teacher that's in your family, please mention this, because again, it's something really neat that we're really trying to get out there and recognize our schools for doing good things. So our Ohio Materials Marketplace, OHM, this is kind of like Craigslist, meets Match.com, if you will. And that's kind of an internal joke that we have. When this first was put out there, the director of Ohio EPA, his name actually was Craig. So it's kind of fitting that we kind of call it a Craigslist for environmental wastes, if you will. Basically what it is, it's an online platform that we provide, and it gives you opportunity to post material that you don't have any use for anymore. And instead of throwing away, you post it on this platform, and then you try to connect with another entity that maybe is looking for that particular material. So maybe you have a drum of some sort of acid, it's good, you just don't need it anymore. You can give it away for free, you can sell it for a small cost, whatever it is. But if somebody needs that drum, you're just trying to make those connections. We're trying to extend landfill life, basically, is what we're doing, keep stuff out of the landfill. It's free. You just need to sign up for it, and it has to be business that signs up for it. Individuals just can't sign up for it. Like, if you're bored on a Friday night, you can't just go home and sign up for this thing. It actually has to be a business. We vet it, we go through, we confirm that it is a business, and the regulators do not have access to this. Okay, so it's just a member based only. So all the members that sign up have access to it. Our program has access to it, but we don't get real involved besides, just maintaining the platform. And then we do ask for some information to be shared with us, just as far as how much stuff was diverted from a landfill, et cetera. So it's kind of a neat program that exists. And then I just wanted to mention this, this organization, the Ohio Air Quality Development Authority. It's kind of a sister agency for us. They provide additional money, some loans, some grants, maybe some tax exempt financing for pollution control equipment. So let's say you got to put in a new dust collector or some sort of scrubber system. You can contact this group, and again, they're going to have some money that's available to try to help you get that equipment and purchased and up and running. So I put that contact information in there for you as well. So went over a lot of information here on us. If you want to get a hold of us, there's multiple ways. You can contact us directly, and our contact information will be at the end of this presentation. But let's say Tom and I are both on vacation, and you just have that burning question and you need some help, you can call our hotline Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and you're going to get a hold of one of our colleagues throughout the state. They're going to be able to help answer a question for you. Or if you are real tech savvy and you like doing the old chat and chat live kind of stuff, we do have a chat that's available 8 to 5 as well. And you can access that from our website. So I'm going to turn this over to Tom, and he's going to go through some of the regulatory items, and he probably will be going through it fairly quickly. But again, you'll have access to this information when we're all said and done. So I will stop sharing and turn this over to Tom, and he can run with it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, let me get my screen up going here. And so there we go. You guys should be seeing my screen now. So yeah, again, just to kind of jump back in, my name's Tom Sicati with Ocap, and I'm going to go through some of the regulatory side of things here, kind of give you a quick refresher to, as Jeremy and I have said, that we were both inspectors. That's one of the perks of working with Jeremy and I and our organization, or our part of the agency, is that we do have that inspector's view. We've been through this quite a bit, and like I was an inspector in air, but I've also been out on water and waste inspections as well. I'm sure Jeremy's done the same thing. So these are the things that we look for, and the things that we try to keep in mind when we're going through a facility. So we're trying to give you that perspective and give you that lens, if you will. So I'm going to run through some of the regulatory programs and try and hit some of the finer points in that. I'm a little short on time, so I'm going to go through some of this fairly quickly. But again, our contact information will be at the end. So you can reach out if something catches your eye, or if you have any questions. And again, like Jeremy said, if this isn't your specific world with the environmental side of things, maybe something that if you see while you're out in your facility, it'll catch your eye and you might want to pass that information along, or you can just pass that information along to the folks that you think that it might be helpful for. So again, let's get into some of the regulatory side. We're going to talk mostly about air and the air program, the water program, and then the wastes program, specifically hazardous waste. So here we go. So air pollution. This is where I was an inspector for 12 years in the Division of Air Pollution Control. And I think a lot of people see this picture here off to the left, and everyone thinks that it's that big smokestack that's belching out black smoke. And that's the thing that we're always looking for. It's not all sources of air pollution. So we kind of have this 4 rules of thumb for things that are regulated or that might need a permit. We always say that anything that has if you see a stack or a vent, or if there's some kind of dust collector, that's probably something that is going to be regulated, or it's controlling a regulated pollutant or emitting a regulated pollutant. So if you see that stack, a vent, that point of discharge, that's something that you might want to look at. Then any other operations that use solvents or paints, inks, adhesives, things like that. Usually, we always jokingly say if you get that the thing that has some kind of funky odor to it. But those processes are largely regulated for volatile organic compounds or organic compounds. Anything that burns fuel, if it burns propane, natural gas, fuel oil, diesel, anything along those lines, those products of combustion that are going to be emitted after that fuel is burned, that's probably going to be something that would require a permit. And then anything that causes smoke, dust, or odors, that's another big reason to get the EPA out to your facility. If you have a neighbor that maybe isn't happy with smoke, dust, and odors that might be coming from your property or your operation, again, something that that may be regulated and might get the EPA out to your property, because those things might need permits. So some common things that do need permits, things that we see a lot of are larger boilers. But it's for a boiler, it's got to be a fairly large boiler, but printing operations, painting operations, dry cleaning, dry cleaners are kind of going by the wayside, but we do still see them. And things like stone crushing. There's a lot of aggregate processing, sand and gravel pits up in Northwest Ohio in this area. That's something that we see a lot of here too. But not everything needs a permit. We've been talking about, this is what we're looking at, doesn't need a permit. Not everything needs a permit. There's actually a pretty long list of things that have a permanent exemption, meaning that for one reason or another, the EPA says that this specific thing does not need a permit. And then here's a few examples. The boilers and water heaters under 10 million BTUs. That's probably one of the most common exemptions. I said it's got to be a fairly large boiler, so moderate to smaller boilers like under 10 million BTUs. If you have a solvent reclaiming operation like a solvent still, small solvent parts washer, storage tanks, those types of things. A lot of those things do not need air permits. There's a list of permanently exempted things at that citation that you see there in the Ohio Administrative Code. And again, you don't need to provide notification to the EPA. A permit is not required. These are things that you can have and you don't need any further action. Then as far as for not needing a permit, there's this other exemption called the de minimis exemption. And de minimis is a Latin phrase, basically means trivial. So anything that emits less than 10 pounds per day of one of the main pollutants that the EPA regulates, if it's less than 10 pounds per day, you might be able to qualify for this de minimis exemption. Or if it's less than 1 ton per year of what are referred to as hazardous air pollutants, those are the real nasty things, most of like a lot of carcinogenic type things. Those things has a 1 ton threshold, but you might still be able to qualify for that. Again, there's no requirement to notify the EPA for this. If you can show that you meet this exemption, then you just have to keep records with that, and that's something that Jeremy and I can help you with. Then there's another option called permit by rule, and there's a few different categories: emergency generators, plastic parts, injection molding, printing shops, gas stations, auto bodies. There's several categories, if you will, that there's a permit that's already out there. It's in the regulations, it's in the rule, hence why they call it permit by rule. So the permit essentially is already out there. It's in the regulations. You can see what would be required of you, what your record keeping requirements are, how often you have to do reporting, if at all those types of things. And all you have to do is fill out this 1-page notification that says, we're going to comply with this, and our company is going to comply with this. And if you were to come out, we'll have all this stuff. You don't have to get a permit. There's no waiting for it. There's no fee associated with it. There's no fees associated with annual operation or anything like that. And it's a pretty good option. You just have to. It's just for certain categories of different types of operations, and there's a few of them listed there. So that's another option to not being required to get a permit. But if you do have to get a permit, then we start talking about the most common option is this permit to install and operate. And you're supposed to get this permit before the equipment is installed and operating. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes people just don't know that they need to get the permit, or for a bit they make the business decision that we're going to start installing and operating this, and we'll get the permit as we do it. Probably not the best option, but that we see that from time to time as well. But these permits can take a little bit of time, typically a little bit more complex. Sometimes it can take up to 6 months to get your permit. There is a one-time installation fee for that, and then you do every other year. There is a biannual operation or a biannual fee, and this allows these permits allow you 18 months to start construction of your operation, or of that process, if you will. But that's a pretty common type of permit, and that's again the PTIO. There's also a general PTIO, so that's still that same permit to install and operate, but this is already like we call it a canned permit. It's again, very similar to permit by rule. It's out there. You can look online. You can see exactly what's in it. It's a little bit more complex. The agency needs a little bit more information. So there is an application process as opposed to that one-page notification. You do still need to go through the application process, but you can already see what's out there and know what you're getting into. And these permits typically get turned around a lot faster, usually within 45 days. I think out of our office, this is usually takes about a week. So again, much faster option. And again, there are only certain types of general permits out there: dry cleaners, boilers, concrete plants, metal painting, miscellaneous metal parts operations, things that cause fugitive dust like roadways and storage piles, things along those lines. That general permit is out there and a good option. So that's kind of the brief overview of air. We're going to run through water real quick here. So our division of surface water, they pretty much look at three different things. They're going to be considering sanitary wastewater, which is like from your showers and toilets and hand washing and things along those lines. Then you've got industrial process wastewater, which comes from some type of industrial process or an industrial operation, and then stormwater. Sanitary wastewater is exactly what you would think that it is. It's from toilets, hand washing, showers, things along those lines. So you want to ask yourself, where does your sewage go? If you have an on-site treatment plant, or like Jeremy alluded to, a package plant earlier, maybe you're going to have a certain type of permit for that called an NPDES, or National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. Or you might have a septic tank or a leach field, but it's important to know where your sewage is going and to know how that needs to get handled. Then as far as process wastewaters, lots of different processes require different types of permits, but this could be like spent solutions from a plating operation or from a parts cleaning operation, cooling towers, equipment cleaning, rinse waters, and then power washing. That one in the bottom right corner is one that gets a lot of people. A lot of times they don't realize that even washing fleet vehicles and things along those lines, or if you have a mobile power washing operation, that is something that is regulated because that water needs to go somewhere. So things that you want to ask yourself about this is, are you generating a liquid waste or a process wastewater? So again, what are you generating? And then that second question, are you discharging that to a local treatment plant, or where is it going? So you may need, even if it is going to a local wastewater treatment plant, depending on what you're doing, you may need to get permission from the local wastewater treatment plant to be able to put that into the system, because they want to make sure that whatever you're putting into the sewer system isn't going to damage the plant, especially the biological portion of a wastewater treatment plant. There's bugs in there that eat up some of that organic material, and if you kill all the bugs, it could be a bad day for the treatment plant. So they may ask you to treat your water on site, maybe knock the pH down a little bit, or pick it up a little bit, or take out some of the heavy metals that might be in there from a cleaning operation, things along those lines. So again, when we're talking about process wastewater, are you generating a process wastewater? Where is it going? And do you need to do anything to it before it goes to wherever it is going? A good way to look at that. And then we mentioned stormwater. These are good examples of why they regulate stormwater. It could be that precipitation that comes down, either as rain, snow, whatever, it gets into that dumpster that has all the oily scrap metal in it, or it gets into you have something got tracked out of the building and it's now on the ground, and it could be an oil or a chemical, paint, something along those lines, and they're trying to keep it from getting into the storm system. So there is a stormwater program out there, and if you are in certain industries, certain types of industries, typically the manufacturing and then recycling and transportation businesses, excuse me, those are, if you're in one of those related industries, then there's a pretty good chance that you may have to talk to the folks in stormwater to make sure that whatever your industrial activity is not exposing stormwater, or will not expose stormwater to any type of contamination before it goes into a waterway. And then construction activities are also another form of stormwater contamination. Sorry, that word eluded me for a second. So like this picture here is a good example of why they have to put up why you might have to put up ground cover or you see like maybe booms, that absorbent boom or the silt fence that has to go up around construction sites. That's what this is for, is to try and keep some of that silted water from running off of a construction site and making it into a waterway, because all that silt, all that dirt does make it hard for biological, like fish and all the wildlife that's in the streams and in the rivers, makes it harder for them. So if we can avoid that and keep some of that out of the waterways, that's what we need to do there as well. So there are some programs that you may need a permit for your construction site. And basically, if you're disturbing more than 1 acre of land, that's kind of the rule there. If you're stripping the cover, or if you're disturbing in any way more than 1 acre of land, then this construction stormwater program is something that you may want to look into. So if your company is adding on a new portion of the plant, putting in some more parking, whatever that may be, if you're disturbing 1 acre of land or more, that's something that you should take a look at. I know that we're running short on time here. I'm going to go through this as quick as I can. I'm sorry to keep everybody longer, but the hazardous waste program, this is another one that kind of comes into play and that we see quite a bit. And the hazardous waste program talks about this whole cradle to grave management concept. So from the time that you're the generator, the person or the organization that creates the hazardous waste, all the way through the transporter, the person who's going to take your waste someplace to a place that is called a TSDF, a treatment, storage, and disposal facility, where that is the ultimate grave of your hazardous waste, but everything is tracked and accounted for from the time that it's generated to the time that it is finally disposed of, and actually in a lot of cases, even after that. So basically what we want to encourage everybody to think about is, what are you throwing away? It's all about your trash. What are you throwing away? If you think that there's the way that the agency is going to look at this is if there is, if there's any question about something, you may have to confirm or demonstrate that it is not a hazardous waste. So we're not talking about your office trash, papers, everybody's lunch from today, the bags from McDonald's, stuff like that. We're not talking about that kind of stuff. But if we're more so talking about things that are generated from your process. And if it's non-hazardous, then you can just put it in the dumpster and throw it away just like everybody else. If it is hazardous, then you do need to, you want to see if you can recycle it, see if you can make it less hazardous, but then there are rules that there are rules that talk about how long you can store that material, and then how long before you have to have it disposed of by a hazardous waste TSDF and picked up by your transporter. But what is a hazardous waste? Real quick, hazardous waste has to be a solid waste, which oddly enough, a solid waste doesn't have to be solid. It could be liquid or semi-liquid, but it's basically, are you throwing it away and it has no value anymore? That's a solid waste. And then, is it listed? There's this list that the EPA maintains. There's actually 4 of them. And if your waste is listed, then you're gonna be subject to these rules. And if not, so if it's a solid waste, and is it a solid waste? Is it listed? And then, does it exhibit one of the 4 characteristics of a hazardous waste? And that's ignitability, corrosivity, toxicity, and reactivity. If you're generating a waste that meets these criteria and you do have to manage it, then you do need to get an Ohio EPA or a US EPA hazardous waste generator ID number. And that number is assigned by the Ohio EPA by filling out a form called the 9029 form. You can do it online. It's pretty easy, pretty simple, but it's basically just like registering with the EPA. But some common waste streams that we see, and things that come into play quite a bit: electronics, the heavy metals you hear about those rare earth metals and the different components that go into electronics. Those things, lots of electronics are considered a hazardous waste. Used oil and oil filters, aerosol cans, antifreeze, paint related waste. These are a lot of things that we see in and around different operations. Even if you're not necessarily a painting company, You may still have some paint and paint related stuff around your house, or I'm sorry, around your business. Then shop towels and rags, all the solvents and greases that might be used to maintain things, and all those types of things, something to take into consideration. And then I don't know many businesses that don't use fluorescent lights or some kind of battery. And even when it says fluorescent lights, but that includes LEDs as part of electronics as well. So it's just, this is something that a lot of places may generate, even if you don't think that you're in the hazardous waste generator category, you may be. So again, something to take a look at and consider. Real quick, I want to touch on used oil and oil filters. This is something that we see quite a bit, but biggest thing is make sure that your used oil is labeled appropriately. It has to say used oil on the container. And if you're, a lot of places or some places I'll say have a used oil burner. And what I'll say is, if you are using your own used oil in your used oil burner, that's okay. Everyone's allowed to do that. However, if you get oil from any place else, or if you give oil to anybody else, there probably needs to be an analysis done on that oil before you can burn it. So something to keep in mind, because we see that that's a common citation that a lot of people get dinged on. There is a thing called universal wastes, and basically what this does is it allows you to manage some of those things that typically are hazardous waste in a slightly different way. Maybe you don't have to keep as many records. Maybe you can store something longer. They're trying to make things a little bit easier to handle and regulate these more common waste streams. So this is another concept that I'd like you to be aware of. It's the universal waste rules, and there are some Ohio specific ones as well, and they're listed here. Don't have as much time to discuss this, but again, kind of universal waste is a different way to manage some of those waste streams and might benefit you a little bit. So with that, I'm sorry I drug you out a little bit longer than needed, but here is our contact information. And if you have any questions, Jeremy and I'd be happy to help, and we'll do whatever we can to answer any questions, and go from there. And hopefully, if we can help you out. So again, apologize for running late, but Deb, I'll go ahead and kick it back to you.
Thanks. No worries. It looks like everybody hung in there with us for the last bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put my stuff back up here real quick. And so here's just, of course, the winner for the $100 will be announced when I send out the email with all the information. And there's my email address. Our next meeting, like I mentioned, is the 14th of June. I will be sending you the survey for topics and some other items. So please submit that if you can. And again, here's their contact information. So I really appreciate everybody being here today. Thanks, Jeremy and Tom, for sharing all of your knowledge with us. And there was a lot to learn there. So that was a lot of really good information. And then I don't see, let me see. Are you guys looking in the chat at all down here? Oh, there's just chat. It doesn't look like there's any specific questions right now. So I think that
yeah, if anybody has any questions, we can hang out for a few minutes and try and handle and answer as many of those as we can. But if you guys need to go, I understand that as well.
Perfect. All right, so you guys are all welcome to go, or I'll leave this open for a little bit and see if any messages pop up for those questions specifically. But go forth and have a safe day, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Yeah, so we can just hang out for a minute and see if anybody else is there, if anybody pops in with a question. And
yeah. It looks like
So-
we're mostly popping out. Okay. go ahead.
Yep. So I had written down, I think at one point in time, I saw a total of 40
Yes.
participants. So,
Yeah.
okay. Just for our records, what we report back to our folks as well.
Great. It's a little light for us, but we're ready to get back into in person. So, all right. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions popping up. So I'll go ahead and roll things up here. And hopefully if they have questions, they'll just reach out to you directly.
all right, very good.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, you guys.
Fair enough.
Thanks,
Thank
Deb.
you.
Have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.